Okay, welcome everybody to the Sarpy County and Cities Wastewater Agency meeting. Today is Wednesday, January 28th. It's 4:01 p.m. Copy of the Nebraska Open Meeting Act rules are located on the north wall of the agency boardroom. This is a public meeting, obviously, so if there's anybody from the public that wants to address the agency on any agenda item, just let yourself be known before we get too far into it, and we'll allow you to come up and talk. In attendance today, we have all 6 agency board members present, along with our administrator, Dan Hoynes, our financial officer, Mark Setout, our chief engineer, Jeff Thompson, and Lisa Harris, our secretary. If you haven't, please silence your phone. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any comments or announcements from the agency board? Okay, then we'll get right into our staff updates, starting with Administrator Hoynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, member mayors. Just a couple of things to update you on and some discussion heading into our February meeting. I'd like to take a moment just to tell you what's going on there. First, we did get approval from the federal government to amend the WIFIA loan, working with the county to align that with them and get their sign off. Hope to have that up to you by February 25th meeting, and then we would also have, if we can get agreement with the county on the amendment, the approvals to begin the design and permitting for the blue and green lines on our master plan. That was the 2 important things. Also, I did mention in my report, my written report, that we were notified, Chairman Kelly, actually, by Congressman Bacon, that we got a $2 million appropriation for our project. Still don't know exactly what that appropriation's for. We're trying to coordinate and contact the Congressman's office, but that certainly will help us. So I'm going to do a quick handout here so we can follow along. I'm going to call up our master plan here too. There it is. So this document's making its way around. The reason I wanted to talk with you a few minutes today, Mr. Chair, member mayors, is we have been working and analyzing the process of how we should go about addressing the issue of reimbursements. We hope, we've had a pending reimbursement discussion agreement with Springfield for several months now. They've got some pending developments, 4 of them actually, but one of them is dependent upon the construction of some agency infrastructure in the master plan. The top part of this, I'll just let you read it yourself. I think it was either Chairman Kelly or Vice Chair Kendig had asked for, I think it's Chairman Kelly, a primer on what we did with Gretna last June, what requirements that we put on them, and so I did some cut and paste. Now, there is a difference here, Mr. Chair, member mayors. Gretna is not flowing into our system whatsoever. In the instance, the pending coming one, Springfield is going to request to advance some agency infrastructure and is asking for reimbursement. Now, the difference between Gretna and the Springfield is they're actually going to be advancing agency infrastructure and flowing into our system effectively day one. And so while they're similar, there's differences. And the reason I'm taking a couple of minutes here is that we are anticipating, Kathleen's requested, we're very close to finalizing the agreements. I shared this a couple times with the administrators, but the agreements are what I consider final form and be heading up to you. And this is really a very important policy discussion for us moving forward based off of 6 months. But just for your edification, Springfield is looking at, is this up on your screen? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. This little red piece, it actually runs under Highway 50. Now that little piece of construction, the engineering estimates Mr. Chairman, member mayors, about $1 million, maybe 1.2, somewhere for that to be developed. And our staff position with Springfield has been that Springfield or the developer has to pay for that. The agency doesn't have the funds, and they have to pay for that. And of course, that has led into the reimbursement agreement discussions. And so what the engineer and I've been working on is, well, what's a fair way to actually analyze and to reimburse on that, assuming that they're going to advance it. And so building this little red connection, that actually goes under Highway 50. For those of you that struggle with map reading like I do, it goes under Highway 50. But it's going to open up this entire SC7 area for development. And again, you can take this and just read it by reference if you want. At full development, and it's only one upper corner of this SE7 that is proposed to be developed soon, but at full development, I think Jeff determined it's 420, 430 acres maybe of developable ground in there. That would generate about $8.2 million in agency connection fees. And so Jeff's put a formula together that the cost divided by the amount of revenue that we will get at full development, and then that will allow a reimbursement. The way the agreement's written, it's up to 25%. That's just a number we're comfortable with right now of a reimbursement. We keep 75, they get 25, but in Gretna's case, or Springfield, excuse me, that number is much lower. It's about 13%, where they would be fully reimbursed for that $1.2 million investment. Now again, I think we're really comfortable. I think Kathleen's comfortable where we're at. I think all the engineers are comfortable and it's ready to come up. But I know there's also, in probably each one of your jurisdictions, discussions about pioneering blue lines or green lines. And so the reason I'm taking this 5 or 6 minutes here is to tell you that what you do coming up probably sets the stage moving forward. But there is a difference between the Gretna temporary flow north and we're going to advance agency infrastructure. In the Gretna instance last June, all of it was temporary. They're not building agency infrastructure. This is part of the permanent agency infrastructure. And so I'll pause there and answer any questions. It really is, I just wanted your administrators have received briefs on this, but since it's such an important thing we're going to be dealing with in February, I wanted to let you know what the agency thoughts are at this point. And then it gives us a few weeks to discuss it and provide different directions needed. So I'll pause there.
Is there any math behind the 13%, or how'd you get to that?
Yeah, there is, and don't make me do math. People know. It's really, Mayor, it's the number of acres divided by the potential revenue and factored into the cost. Like this is 1.2. And Jeff can explain the math, Kathleen can explain the math, other people can explain the math. Now, it all is driven by what we think. We're pretty confident on this cost, by the way. We have a lot of good data. This is a final plat or very close. So we know that, whatever they're going to use, how big the pipe has to be. Any other advanced line, we would need to do some more work. And we can give you some high-level estimates of what we think the ratio may be. But until we get into the actual development and what the cost may be to do it in today's dollars, that percentage is going to move.
So that's the kind of the policy question, and whether that calculation is what we should go forward with. Not the percentage, but more the calculation.
Right. The agreement says would be made whole not to exceed 25%. Okay. Our preliminary math, now maybe it's 30%. Those are policy decisions you folks get to make. And again, we can get into it. We have a fairly, well, depending on who you're asking, I have a real high level of comfort with 25%. Others in our organization want like 5%. But I got more of a risk tolerance coming in, but 25, go ahead, Mayor.
Just a quick comment on the policy, because you mentioned that approval of Springfield would set a policy, and you mentioned policy as well. I'm fully supportive of the Springfield agreement. I'm going to vote for it, but in my mind, it does not set policy. When we did the Gretna one, the instruction to the administrators and the administration was try to come up with a policy. We didn't do that. We did a Gretna-specific agreement. I said on the record at that point, that's how I understood that. This one then will be a Springfield-specific one, because I think a lot of the conversations with Springfield have not fully included all the administrators, so there's no way to develop a policy only talking to one administrator. So I'll support the Springfield one. I'm aware of it, I've seen it, and I don't have any issue with it. We'll support that. But I think each of these areas might have some nuances, and so we won't, from our perspective, working with the agency, we will see the Springfield and Gretna as baselines to build logic upon, but they don't set policy when I'm voting.
That's fair, and I think we've struggled with that word. I probably should use an agreement. You know, as we wrestled, we had spent a lot of time on this
Oh, I agree.
over the holidays, just internally challenging each other about how do we maintain the viability, what's fair for all members, and it will, instead of policy, it'll set a course.
Yeah.
You know,
But there's a lot of nuances, like pioneering of the pilot fees up front. We've had more growth than we need. There's a lot that goes into the calculation. So the Springfield agreement will not set policy. We'll have more discussions.
it'll be an agreement between, I think I said that, it'll be an agreement between the agency and Springfield only. It certainly doesn't bind.
Yeah.
But again, when we talk about, you have to think about the policy implications. And as we discuss this internally, you know, from our perspective as staff of the agency, it's very analogous to when does a city annex an SID? I don't think you would ever set a policy that says we will annex you on X day. When they do, because there is a financial impact, right, to an annexation. There's a financial impact to every one of these that come before us.
I just wanted on the record that the Springfield agreement does not set policy. We still have individuals to negotiate.
For the record, I'll stand corrected and say it's not a policy, it will be it. But I think we see them as very much individual analysis and agreements, Mayor.
And we appreciate that.
And 30% may be one and 13 may be the next.
Yeah, we got to think of, are there other factors in play that maybe where it needs to be tweaked? So appreciate that.
Yeah, and one of the messages here too, that, you know, I think you
And
really
just for the others, the reason I say that, Papillion's working with the agency as well, because the blue line, there's some landowners that are thinking they can never develop until there's a policy in place. So I think just for the market to work, they want to know that there's a policy in place. So we're talking to a couple of landowners about a policy that would work in the jurisdiction. One of them crosses into Springfield as well, and I think we're having some conversation with Kathleen on that. Yeah. So appreciate it.
Right, and I don't want to speak for Papillion, heaven forbid if I do that, but certainly we've had some conversations and have indicated, exchanged some documents with them and said, hey, yeah, let's sit down at the table and try to make it work. We've never formally adopted a mission statement, but I'll tell you, if we did, it would be this. Get every member sewer where they need it, when they need it. Yep. Now, is that practical? How does that play out? Development drives that, right?
Especially when others are going to pioneer it.
Yeah. Well, that's just where we're at. You're well aware. So, you know, other questions?
On the earmark, that passed in the House. Did you know when the Senate hears that?
No, it hasn't.
it's not
I said
approved
James
yet.
Wright retired. Maybe you knew that.
Teresa is helping.
Yeah, I've sent email, Teresa an email, and we're still, I think, passing the electronic night, but we put in for a $10 million CDS, Congressional Directed Spending, a year ago. Tim Gay helped us with it, and again, the only person that I think did the congressman contacted you, Chairman Kelly, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, and said you got $2 million.
Oh, yeah, and you know, it hadn't been approved by the Senate.
By the Senate,
yet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's so far down in the big scheme, in the noise level, he didn't anticipate any issue with that whatsoever. And I believe they've got approved the budget by the end of this week. So I think it's gone through the Senate. I would think if it was bad news, we would have known already. So.
Right, and we are well into the preparation of the upcoming agency budget. I think I've mentioned the last two meetings that April 30th, you have to approve that as an agency board. And so Jeff and I have been doing a lot of analysis on what would be the best use of that $2 million. And we haven't come to a conclusion, but we'll have a recommendation in the budget that we present to you for approval on where we think it would be the best use of that appropriation. Thank you for your time. Took a little longer than I usually do, but I think coming up to the February meeting, it's really some important discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, project engineer.
Chairman Kelly, Agency Member Mayor Jeff Thompson, Project Engineer for the agency. Nothing to report in regards to construction, but I think it's obvious from Dan's outline, a lot of what I've been working on the last month in regards to mapping for exhibits, agreements with development and reviews of development and several inquiries. So we've also started the budget process. Mark and I have been meeting, and Dan and Lisa meeting weekly to sit down and kind of pencil out a rough outline of what our budget will yield for next year, and happy to report, at least preliminarily, that things look like they're trending in the right direction in regards to some projections we'd made that were maybe a little higher than what we'd expected and what we're seeing to date. But that more will come of that once we get to the point of presenting you with a draft budget in the next several weeks. And then again, as Dan said, we do have the WIFIA amendment in our hands, and have been working with the county to try to get that codified through their board and hopefully then to you for consideration. So I would be happy to answer any questions you might have at this point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, financial dashboard.
Okay, good afternoon, board members. I'm Mark Setout, the agency treasurer. This is the Wastewater Agency's monthly financial dashboard report for the period ending December 31st, 2025. There are a few formatting changes to note for the dashboard that will be shown moving forward. One note, I'll note the small change first, and that is the Omaha connection fee line item that we have here. That is the amount that we've paid to Omaha for our sewer connection fees. This is a liability paid to them, so this is an expense that directly correlates to connection fee revenue. So that's why we're going to show it here in the revenue section of the dashboard as a negative number. And secondly, and the bigger change to the dashboard is based on Mayor Kindig's recommendation, I did add a column for current period revenues and expenses. That'll be shown in the first blue column here with data on the left-hand side closest to those account names. And then moving right, all the columns will be the same as before. The cumulative year-to-date amounts, percentage of budget, and then the previous year-to-date and percentage of budget. So I think this is the right size amount of data to present for the agency's dashboard. The concern with adding too much data to a dashboard is that it can become, harder for the target audience to read and follow. So important data can sometimes get lost if there's too much noise in there. But I think this quick glance of the current period numbers is important for the board and the agency to have on the dashboard. So we'll keep that on moving forward. And as I noted last month, all this data that's shown on the dashboard is reported in more detail in the financial statements packet that we provide each month along with the claims report. And I can always walk through that information for any board member upon request offline or what have you. All right, so onto the dashboard rundown here. Connection fees, we received some connection fee payments from Sarpy and Papillion in December. Those are listed in the current period column. We also paid out that $144,000 to the city of Omaha, line item I just noted. That payment covers our liability for the connection fees received for the first 6 months of the fiscal year so far. Total connection fees are 224% of budget, coming in at just over $2 million for the fiscal year. Connection fees received this year have been spread out across the agency members' jurisdiction, whereas last year the bulk of the connection fees came from the Meta project. So for me, that's a good sign that we are seeing growth, throughout the agency's jurisdiction. Flow revenue is very close to budget at this point in the year. We're about 49% of budget. We will see current amounts for flow each month moving forward. And again, in that current period column, and those amounts have been fairly consistent month over month for Sarpy and Springfield. Other revenues, we received almost $67,000 from Meta as scheduled in December for the ISS replacement payment, as well as $13,000 in interest income from 5 Points Bank Business Checking. So our total cumulative revenue so far for the year is about $2.88 million, which is about 95% of the budgeted revenue amount for the year. We had more revenue collected at this time last year. That's primarily due to the grants we received and the higher amount of connection fees from Meta that I noted. So moving on to expenses. Halfway through the fiscal year, our expenses are at $2.2 million, which is only 10% of the budgeted expenses for the year. And our expenses are significantly lower than budget now due to the lower project cost as we continue to work through the WIFIA modification process. Net income is at $89,000 of loss right now for the fiscal year. I believe that is relatively decent position for the agency, all things considered. We did just make our $750,000 debt service payment for SRF in December. And also we are aware of multiple developments in the pipeline that will yield connection fees in the back half of the fiscal year. So moving on to loan balances, we drew about $20,000 from WIFIA in December. The total loan amount is now at $91.5 million. And off to the right there, you can see the debt service payment that was made in December. That's here on the debt service side. Pilot funds remain unchanged from the previous month. So we have $1.1 million year to date and $3 million received in total since the agency inception. And cash, the 5 Points Bank checking account went down about $900,000 from last month. In large part, this is due to the debt service payment that we made and also the payment to Omaha for connection fees. The $2 million remains in the CD account, and the payroll account remains at an operational level, putting our total cash position at about $9.4 million for the month. So that is all I have for you today. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question. I think it's for Dan, though. On the DP&E for the major lines that we still need to construct, what was the total for those again?
Jeff?
7
We're not
million?
doing the E on it, we're only doing DP, but
So just the DP?
About 7 million, yeah, and that includes the decommissioning costs for the Sarpy County lift station, which we estimated about $500,000, so
So 7.
7 total, yes.
And then if you just picked one of can you break it up in segments so we know what each segment costs?
For the DP, yeah, I've done that based on, for the engineering component of it, no, I've not done that. But we can, yes. I have the breakout from HDR that we can provide, yes.
Okay.
Or work through and get you some
Yeah,
exhibit.
if you could share that with the board
Okay.
at some point when you get that data, I think that would be helpful.
Okay,
You know, as funds become available, we can think about how we want to sequence.
so, I mean, maybe I misunderstood you. Do you want the breakout of what the engineering design costs are and permitting for each segment, or do you want the construction costs, or both?
No, just the construction costs. I don't need just the DP&E.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So that's like line 1B, and there's a couple of those.
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
3
those are
line
ones I'm
1Bs and some, and then the line out to Gretna. But yeah, we've got that broken down in a spreadsheet format. I don't have anything visual to be able to provide you at
that's
this
fine.
point, but I can get that for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any questions for Mark specifically?
I will just note one thing in regards to Mark's report with the WIFIA loan amendment. We did get the approval for the reimbursement cost for the the Springfield lift station decommissioning, which is about $2.8 million. So if and when that amendment is approved, we will make that request to WIFIA and get that 2.8 back into our bank. So
Great, thanks.
you bet.
Appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to amend the consent agenda to move item 4 down to the regular agenda. So the motion is approve the consent agenda as published with the exception of item 4.
Motion.
Second. Okay. All right, we'll give the motion to Gretna and the second to Springfield. Okay, any discussion? Please vote.
Yay, 6, motion carried.
Okay, item 4 is meeting minutes. We're on the regular agenda now, I apologize, but first item is number 4, meeting minutes from December 10th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by LaVista, second by Gretna. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yeas, 5, motion carried.
Okay, regular agenda item number 7 is, actually, it's the only agenda item we have. It's resolution 2, granting a boundary change to the agency's jurisdiction to remove approximately 6.32 acres in the city of Bellevue's planning and zoning jurisdiction. Jeff Thompson, project engineer.
Chairman Kelly, agency member mayors, Jeff Thompson, project engineer for the agency. This is a request that was a little bit complicated from the onset. The way the agency's boundary, southern boundary line is drawn currently is around the ETJ in Bellevue's jurisdiction. This particular parcel was split by the ETJ of Bellevue and Sarpy County. So the applicant had to actually go through a request with one of those two members to make the property entirely in one jurisdiction to be able to make his development, and then subsequently make a request to the agency, because our boundary follows that line, to remove it from the agency boundary in its entirety, because it's about 16 acres, about 6.32 acres of it is in the agency boundary. The type of development that he's requesting is for a residential estate type development. I think just one single family resident at this point. It was approved by Sarpy County to move the ETJ jurisdiction to Bellevue, and then Bellevue subsequently made the request on behalf of Mr. Dempsey to remove the portion within the agency boundary completely from the agency. I do have Mr. Dempsey here this evening if he'd like to come up and say anything. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
We don't have, there wasn't a map in the agenda, was there? Because I'm looking at it, I don't see it. I think it
The property is located just north of La Platte Road, between Bojanski Road and I believe Crappie Cove, just north of Chris and Hansen Lakes. So it's on this very southern fringe of the agency boundary, or what the agency could even serve.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it because the county approved it, but I just, for the picture's worth 1,000 words.
Fair enough.
Did you guys have any questions about the location? Okay. Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, then I'll take a motion, please.
Motion to approve. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, motion by Bellevue, second by Papillion. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yay, 6, motion carried.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Okay, our next meeting is February 25th, 2026. All the agenda items have been addressed as published, and the Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency Board is adjourned.